Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Police were responding to an incident that is believed to be stemming from intimate partner violence.
Police shoot and kill a man at a home in Surrey. They find a woman, his partner, dead inside soon after.
And I feel for the family.
It's an unfortunate story.
Plus,
At this point, we don't have any information that this was a politically motivated incident.
police ask for your help to identify suspects after an explosive device went off outside a BC cabinet minister's office. And
any decrease is a welcome for so many families and young people.
new data says rents are coming down in major Canadian cities, including Vancouver, but affordability remains a challenge.
I was ready to move out to a place by myself a long time ago.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. BC's police watchdog and homicide investigators are looking into 2 deaths at a home in Surrey's Clayton Heights neighborhood. Officers shot and killed a man after being called to reports of an assault Monday night. But as Pinky Wong explains, they found a woman dead inside soon after.
It says around 8:30 Monday night, RCMP Surrey Provincial Operations Support Unit responded to an assault at a residence in Clayton Heights. Officers located a man reportedly with a weapon before shots were fired by police. Despite providing aid, officials say the man died at scene. Police then found a deceased woman inside the home.
The woman and the man were a couple in their 60s, and they resided together at the residence. I can also confirm that police were responding to an incident that is believed to be stemming from intimate partner violence.
The Independent Investigations Office of BC was notified the same day and is now investigating into the man's death. The woman's death is also being investigated by IHIT.
Their police car with
Neighbors were shocked to see heavy police presence since last night.
I never heard of anything like that in the neighborhood for sure. Very, very quiet neighborhood and things like that. So nothing with this kind of police presence. Tell me to come inside and hear it. And yeah, I know both my kids were a little bit freaked out a little bit.
So it is a little scary today, and it's an unfortunate story.
Uneasy because it's happened so close to home. And I feel for the family. No one's life should ever be taken because it is a great neighborhood. A lot of families here, so hopefully we can all come together and just work through this because it is such a horrible incident that happened. So.
IHIT says this was an isolated incident involving the deceased woman and the alleged suspect who was shot by police. This is the second high-profile case of deadly intimate partner violence in less than a week. On Monday, the family of a woman killed in Kelowna, BC, called for more to be done to address domestic violence in the province. Investigators are asking anyone with information to contact them. Pinky Wong, CBC News, Surrey.
Well, this may be some good news for renters in our region. The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation says advertised rents in major cities are coming down, and Vancouver leads the way with a nearly 5% drop. But as Michelle Gassoub explains, affordability remains a challenge.
New data from Canada's National Housing Agency confirming what some renters already know. The cost of renting is coming down.
I feel like a year ago, I wanted to move out on my own, and I ended up getting a roommate because if I wanted a 1-bedroom, it would have been like $2,600 for any of the neighborhoods that I wanted, and now they've come down 19, 18-ish.
Thrilled, absolutely thrilled. I've been renting in Vancouver for almost 8 years. And it's been horrendous. The amount my rent has gone up. And so I'm very excited. Any decrease is a welcome for so many families and young people.
According to the data, Vancouver is leading the charge on the decrease, with advertised rent in the city down 4.9% in the first quarter of 2025. Among the contributing factors, a sluggish job market for young people and an overall increase in available housing.
Lots of supply is coming to the market, a lot of rental completions happening in 2025 and also 2026. We all know that since last year there has been some changes changes in immigration policies.
Higher supply and lower demand mean renters are in the driver's seat. Both developers and mom-and-pop landlords are sometimes turning to incentives to attract tenants.
I think the incentive offerings will continue to grow. I don't think we've ever really seen this level of incentives being offered, whether it's 1 month or 2 months of free rent. Developers are really getting creative now to try and attract tenants before their competitors can.
The decrease, a relief for renters looking to finally level up, whether it's ditching roommates or getting an extra bedroom.
It has made reaching that next step in my life a little bit more accessible, as opposed to if rents had stayed where they were, that would have been like years, years out down the road.
Still, a long road ahead in Canada's most expensive cities, as even with a downward trend in rent, overall affordability remains a challenge. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
Mounties in North Vancouver are asking for your help as they try to catch whoever set off an explosive device outside the office of a BC cabinet minister. Katie DeRosa has the latest.
So at this point, we don't have any information that this was a politically motivated incident.
2 suspects, but no motive and no arrests after an explosive device blew up outside of NDP MLA Bowen Ma's office early in the morning in late June.
We do not know if this was targeted towards any MLAs or Bowen Ma's office at this point, so there's no reason to be fearful.
The explosion, which damaged the front door, caused by what police are calling an unsophisticated homemade device, like a bear banger or fireworks tied together. Mounties are sharing surveillance images of 2 suspects in a nearby parking garage. Police describe them as white men, one wearing a long blonde wig, the other with close cropped hair and a stocky build.
We're appealing to the public again now with these new images.
No one was hurt, but the incident led to a safety review of MLA offices. 2 former MLAs say threats against politicians have risen, often starting online.
With women in particular, I get a lot of misogynistic comments. Certainly talking to some of my colleagues, women colleagues, there have been death threats. It's scary stuff.
I think it's particularly affecting women. Women MLAs, women MPs are disproportionately affected by threats online, which end up, I think, often affecting their sense of safety in the constituency office.
No one from the Sergeant-at-Arms office was available for an interview on Tuesday. In a statement, the office says it's conducting a review of safety protocols at MLA constituency offices, but it could not say when the review will be complete. Katie DeRosa, CBC News, Victoria.
BC Conservative MLA Brent Chapman has announced he has been diagnosed with cancer. The MLA for Surrey South says he is undergoing treatment at the BC Cancer Agency. He thanks his family for their support, as well as party leader John Rustad and the Conservative caucus. Chapman says he will continue to serve as an MLA, but in the interim, Richmond Centre MLA Han Chan will step in as critic for transit and ICBC. The mayor of Camloops has been given extra time to get ready for a defamation lawsuit he filed against a city councillor more than 2 years ago. As we hear from the CBC's Marcella Bernardo, a hearing to decide if the case ought to go ahead will likely happen in September.
A BC Supreme Court judge has granted Kamloops Mayor Reed Hamer-Jackson a 2-month adjournment in a defamation lawsuit he filed more than 2 years ago against City Councillor Katie Newstater. At the heart of it is a claim that Newstater defamed the mayor back in March of 2023 when she read a statement on behalf of the rest of City Council accusing him of violating personal and professional boundaries. Fast forward to this week when lawyers for Newstater were hoping that this case could be dismissed. Unfortunately, the mayor of Kamloops didn't have a lawyer until last week. He says it took several months for him to try to find somebody who would be willing to take the case. He's hired a lawyer from Alberta who now says she needs more time to prepare. BC Supreme Court Justice Jacqueline Hughes has now given them until September 22nd to get everything organized. We tried to talk to the mayor and his lawyer as he left the courthouse, but they declined to comment to reporters. Katie Newstader and her lawyer agreed to talk to us outside the courthouse.
These starts and stops are really challenging, having to use my holiday time from work every time this happens so that he can play these games at the last second has been very disruptive, not only for my life, but it's been costly for the taxpayer. I'm concerned that the longer this drags out, the worse it does get. And so I'm very grateful that the judge had a clear mind and set really clear boundaries about what will happen next.
Marcella Bernardo reporting. U.S. President Donald Trump plans to slap a 50% tariff on imported copper. If you didn't know, BC is Canada's largest producer. But as Corey Bullock explains, very little of that heads south.
And now today we're doing copper. I believe the tariff on copper, we're going to make it 50%.
The U.S. president's latest tariff target is a critical mineral found across big parts of this province. BC is Canada's largest producer of copper, but experts say these latest tariff plans might not affect the industry here very much. Copper was among BC's top exports last year, with coal, softwood lumber, petroleum, and pulp. None of that copper, though, was exported to the U.S.
This tariff will have, minimal impact on British Columbian copper producers.
Goring says BC mines account for just over half of Canada's copper output and notes most of what's produced here goes to Asia and Europe. BC's largest copper mine, Highland Valley Copper, owned by Teck, tells CBC News it would be unaffected by potential tariffs, as it doesn't currently sell copper concentrate or finished copper into the U.S. A spokesperson for Taseko Mines also says potential tariffs would have no impact on its Gibraltar copper mine south of Quesnel. It says it ships its products across the world. BC's Mining Association says if Trump follows through, it will have a ripple effect down south.
These tariffs will hurt Americans and increase the price of everything that copper is an input into, from electronics to autos. And to the cost of electricity.
And even though it may not affect BC's industry too much, Goring warns we need to take Trump's statements seriously.
Tariffs generally can be devastating to the Canadian and provincial economy.
There's no timeline for when the new tariffs may come into effect. Corey Bullock, CBC News, Cranbrook.
For the second time in less than 2 weeks, firefighters have had to douse a grass fire in the west end of Camloops. Take a look. Heavy smoke and flames could be seen along the Strathcona Park Trail shortly after 4 p.m. Camloops fire rescue crews have been mopping up the hot spots from above and below that trail. It's not yet clear how this blaze began, but investigators are asking people to stay out of that area. Darius Madabi joins us with a first look at the weather, and you've got the fire danger out there, and you can see Kamloops in yellow and orange at least.
That's right. Much of southern BC under those high to extreme conditions, fire conditions, because of not just the hot and sunny weather that we've had, but the high winds that we've seen ripping through there today and which are expected again tomorrow. Although there is also some showery activity and a drop in temperatures on the way. In the update today from the Ministry of Forests, they also highlighted up in the northeast the severe drought conditions that are up there, level 5 drought again. Fort Nelson has shot right back up to those really high drought conditions, those exceptional drought conditions, and so they are very concerned about the lightning that we saw there today. And even though we are expecting to get some rain tomorrow, we got some decent rain last week, it remains to be seen whether the drought level will come down. We have the update coming on Thursday, and we'll let you know then. In the meantime, satellite and radar, you can see those showers that are moving through the central interior, that lightning up in the north, and of course, that rain that has been working its way down the island and to us here in the lower mainland. And again, those wind gusts as that cold front passes through. In front of that cold front has been the problem today, although those winds have died down. Once we get into tomorrow, expecting the potential for more wind gusts, and especially keeping a close eye on the Eisman Creek fire down here in the Fraser Canyon, the one right along Highway 12. So, Dan, we'll have more for you later in the show.
Okay, Darius, thanks very much.
Thank you.
If you live or work here in downtown Vancouver and need a little break around lunchtime, guess what? CBC's musical nooners are back on our outdoor plaza. Last Wednesday, we heard from the rock band Brass Camel. Here's a taste. That is a nice Les Paul. On Wednesday, we're going to hear from the pop indie band Vox Rea. Showtime is, as the name suggests, 12 noon. The musical nooners take place every Wednesday all summer long until August 20th. Come on down to our station in downtown Vancouver on Hamilton Street between Robson and Georgia and enjoy. It's been more than half a year since the bells of Stanley Park's beloved miniature train fell silent. What will it take to get the tourist attraction back on track? That's next. The BC government is looking at banning the breeding, sale, and future ownership of exotic cats and non-domestic cats. That would include species like servals, ocelots, and European wildcats. The province says the proposal would respond to long-standing concerns from animal welfare groups as well as wildlife experts. They're both worried about the risks these animals pose. Owners who currently have the species would be allowed to keep them until they die. The SPCA has long advocated for a ban, saying local bylaws outlawing the pets lack enforceability. Provincial law already bans larger cats like lions, tigers, jaguars, and cheetahs. Well, Stanley Park's popular miniature train will stay off the tracks for the rest of the year. That announcement comes amid safety concerns and rising costs. More now from the CBC's Amelia John.
The Stanley Park train had more than 90,000 visitors in 2024 before it was closed in December. And now the train will remain off the rails for at least another year. Last December is when a driver got sick from exhaust fumes from one of the locomotives. But even before then, the train hadn't had reliable operations since 2019 and was losing millions of dollars. Now a staff report from the Vancouver Park Board shows 3 possible paths forward, including fixing the current train, replacing the tracks, or a third-party partnership with a new business model. Park Board commissioners questioned staff about how the public might be able to weigh in on future plans and potential higher ticket prices.
You know, the potential costs of being up to $45 for an admission price, I think is asking a lot from residents and from visitors. So for myself, I would want to look at, what is going to be the best fit for that space that allows the most people to have access to it. Stanley Park should not be for some and exclude others.
Staff will continue to study possible options and present findings to the board in early 2026. Amelia John, CBC News, Vancouver.
New Westminster City Council has voted to move forward with a plan to revitalize a waterfront park in that city. As Jonna Bailon reports, the plan is aimed at making the park feel safer and more welcoming.
It's the best time to enjoy the park.
Westminster Pier Park, a popular spot particularly during the summer when families and other park goers like to come here for a run, a picnic, or to simply spend time together by the water.
People have started to do a lot of barbecues. That's what I'm excited for. We're gonna bring our barbecue down here and kind of have a little bit of a fun time.
Friday, Saturday, we've seen people celebrating birthdays, having picnics over there, yeah.
Development work in the area has forced the closure of part of the waterfront pathway for over 3 years. It is now reopened, but during the closure, park officials say amenities and equipment in the area have been targeted by vandalism. In a report to council, park officials say there have been damages to the public washroom, elevators, and the playground in the last year, totaling almost $500,000. That, combined with what the report describes as challenging behaviors by some park goers, have contributed to a diminished sense of public safety. Last night, City Council voted unanimously to do something about it, agreeing to a 1-year pilot program to revitalize the area.
I mean, nobody wants to come to a park with their kids and be disappointed because the slide's not available, right? And so we do know that vandalism is something we want to address right away.
The program includes things like more maintenance and staff support for washrooms and hiring more park liaison officers, including security patrol for late nights. It also includes adding more concession services and hosting more public events at the park.
The riverfront park here is such a huge part of New Westminster's success and it's the living room for the people who live downtown. So we want to make sure it's a comfortable, inviting place for everybody.
It's not just a park, it's our life, part of our leisure life. Since my kids are born, we just came here very often.
The report says the project will cost about $420,000 and funding will come from existing budgets and savings. Jonna Bailon, CBC News, New Westminster.
On Monday, Tavina was all beach tents, sunshine, and surfing. Woo, what a difference a day makes. Rain hitting the west coast of Vancouver Island, though, making its way inland. Darius breaks down how much rain is on its way, coming up next.
This is Vancouver is a new CBC podcast where we explore the issues, the stories, and the people that make this place home. Listen to This is Vancouver wherever you get your podcasts.
Canada's Competition Bureau is furthering its probe into Amazon's pricing policy to determine if the online seller's rules are an abuse of dominance under the Competition Act. Bureau staff say they're looking into the Amazon Marketplace Fair Pricing Policy, which allows the company to penalize sellers for some actions, including if they list an item for sale at a price considerably higher than what it was previously offered at, either on Amazon or elsewhere. They hope to figure out if the policy forces sellers to charge customers more than they otherwise would for a product, or if it prevents competition by keeping sellers from listing their products for lower prices elsewhere. The update comes as Amazon celebrates its annual deal event, Prime Day. It runs from July 8th to 11th. But while the retailer promises big savings, there are questions about how much customers actually stand to benefit and whether Amazon's competition is catching up. For more, let's bring in retail analyst Bruce Winder. Bruce, thanks for being here. To start, there's a bit of skepticism from some around Prime Days. Do you think customers actually stand to save big?
Yeah, I think customers are going to save big, especially this year, because Amazon, you know, they're smart. They realize Canadians are pretty frugal right now. There's a lot of uncertainty with the trade war and job loss, so they know they have to keep their pencil really sharp on price. And I think they're gonna have some pretty hot deals. There's already hot deals in place, but I think it's going to be a pretty big event for them.
When you say hot deals, can you give us an example? What do you think percentage-wise?
It varies a lot by category because different categories have different margin. Like generally electronics are lower percentage savings because the margins are lower. Mm-hmm. But if you go to health and beauty and fashion, you'll see some pretty good savings, I think up to 50% in some cases.
Mm-hmm. What do you make of the idea or perhaps claim that Amazon boosts prices in the weeks ahead of Prime Day in order to suggest or make it seem like people are saving?
No, I don't think that's the case. I mean, a big company like Amazon wouldn't do that. They're too big. The spotlight's on them, right? And they know they would be victim to consumer backlash if they did that.
How has Prime Day affected the broader retail industry? Are we seeing other sellers trying to match these prices if they can?
Yeah, I mean, what's happened since Prime Day really started back about 10 years ago is a lot of other retailers have sort of piggybacked on it, particularly in the U.S. They have their own events and they sort of put circulars and things around this time when they know that Prime Day is normally in July and then October.
What do you mean by circulars?
Circulars like flyers, like their own sales events and things like that.
Are you seeing much demand for big sales from consumers themselves right now, do you think? You mentioned the trade war and perhaps people feeling a little bit more frugal?
Yeah, I think consumers are waiting in the weeds a little bit. They're not buying a lot at regular price. They're a little nervous about discretionary items. So they are going to buy, I think, as they do see things on sale. They're waiting for that save story. And I think that's what they'll do with this event as well, is just wait to see the sales and then jump on them from that point.
For customers who may want to perhaps support a business as a Canadian business, perhaps a smaller business rather than the juggernaut that is Amazon, are they in a position to try and negotiate prices at any point?
It's pretty difficult. I mean, you know, I think it's difficult to negotiate price if you're going to a small company because, you know, it's pretty tough. Margins are pretty tight with expenses right now. So I think it's pretty tough to do that. You kind of have to take whatever's there, especially if the item's on promotion.
Right. Bruce Winder, retail analyst. We appreciate your time and expertise. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Two active members of the Canadian Armed Forces are among 4 men under arrest accused by the Mounties of plotting to create an anti-government militia and forcibly take over land in Quebec. Police are revealing details of their long investigation, including seizures of weapons and equipment, as 3 of the accused are charged with facilitating a terrorist activity. All 4 have now appeared in court and are being held. Jayla Bernstein walks us through the police revelations and what we're learning about the men at the center of those allegations.
2 active members of the Canadian military, part of a group now accused of violent extremism.
This is the first time in my recollection that we've seen any terrorism charges against active duty members of the military.
The allegations involve 4 men in total. 3 from the Quebec City area face charges that carry a maximum 14-year sentence.
They appeared for facilitating a terrorist activity that would have occurred between
June of 2021 and January of 2024 for acts that would have occurred in Quebec and in Ontario.
They are 24-year-old Marc-Aurèle Chabot, a current serving military member, 24-year-old Simon Anger-Audet, and 25-year-old Raphaël Lagacé, who posted these photos on Facebook showing him posing with guns and sporting military-style gear. The fourth arrested, 33-year-old Matthew Forbes, also currently in the military. He is now facing multiple charges, including possession of firearms and explosives. Investigators say they seized this weapons cache in the Quebec City area last year. It includes dozens of firearms and accessories, thousands of rounds of ammunition, and night vision goggles.
That's the single largest cache of weapons and components in any terrorism incident in Canadian history.
Police allege one of the accused created this Instagram account to recruit anti-government militia members, and that group took part in military-style training, shooting, and survival exercises. Police say they believe there was a plot to take land by force in the Quebec City area.
Quite often, if that kind of ideology, what they're looking for is to create a new society, create a society based on the values that they respect.
Police say public security was their top priority as they investigated the plot for the last 2 years.
Jayla Bernstein reporting. Now, extremism within the Canadian Armed Forces is not a new development. As Evan Dyer reports, there is a growing demand for more robust action to deal with it.
I would like to say that I'm surprised, but I'm not.
Professor Andy Knight says his own interviews with radicalized Canadian soldiers and ex-soldiers done at the military's request convinced him there was a problem.
There were some individuals that joined the military to learn the skills. You know, one individual said that he joined the military to learn how to kill brown and black people.
Military service gives soldiers like these Vandus infantry training in military weapons and tactics. For an extremist, there can also be opportunities to steal equipment hard to get elsewhere. The accused in the Quebec plot had a significant amount of military kit.
So you have the arms, now you have the training. There are explicit attempts to recruit people with military experience, whether they're former or whether they're active.
Police say the four men were seeking to create an anti-government militia and aim to seize and hold a parcel of land.
So is that the first stages of creating, this white ethno-state that so many far-right actors and accelerationists, for example, are interested in?
If the allegations are proven, this wouldn't be the first time a former or active Canadian soldier has been caught up in extremism, most notoriously Patrick Matthews of the neo-Nazi group The Base. He fled Canada in 2019 before being arrested by the FBI in Delaware and sent to a high-security federal prison. A 2022 report found rising extremism in the ranks. Experts say the military needs to do a better job of identifying those who wear the uniform for all the wrong reasons, both those who try to join in the future and those who could already be there. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
If you get a call from your bank warning you about a possible scam, you may want to hang up. As Sophia Harris reports, fraudsters posing as bank investigators are stealing millions of dollars from unsuspecting Canadians.
Hello? Melissa Plett says there was nothing suspect about an apparent call from her bank. The caller sounded professional. The phone's call display showed RBC.
It was very, 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 very well executed.
The caller said someone was trying to steal money from her account. He directed Plett to log into her RBC banking app and follow his instructions to safeguard her cash. After the call ended, Plett discovered almost $15,000 had disappeared from her account. She says RBC refused to reimburse her.
For you to finally have a little bit of a savings account and it just to be gone, it's like, I'm gonna cry now. It's just, you just feel helpless.
Plett is one of many victims of the growing bank investigator scam. So far this year, the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre heard from 677 victims of the fraud and tallied $11.7 million in losses, close to double the amount in the same period last year. Well, what are you saying? The actual numbers are likely much higher.
Right now, you are connected with the fraud department.
2 weeks ago, this reporter got the call. The scammer knew my full name and bank and used spoofing technology to make the bank's phone number appear on my call display.
I feel this is a scam. I'm a reporter with CBC News. Hello?
If they have personal information, then it makes it believable, right? You know, victims are seeing a number on the call display that they trust.
Even so, sometimes banks hold the victims responsible and refuse refunds.
The thing is, people were tricked.
This consumer advocate says Canada needs to adopt stronger regulations to ensure victims of the fraud get their money back.
They shouldn't be held liable. We have to take into consideration these kind of scams are very elaborate.
Ottawa says it's exploring stronger protections for fraud victims. RBC says it works hard to combat fraud and takes customer complaints seriously.
Okay.
After CBC News reached out to RBC about Plett's case, the real RBC called her and said it's looking into it.
Thank you so much.
If you get a fraud alert call from your bank, experts advise you to hang up and call your bank back to make sure that's really who was calling. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
The Prime Minister of Israel is in Washington meeting again with U.S. President Donald Trump. Benjamin Netanyahu says he and Trump see eye to eye on the issue of destroying Hamas. Talks to end the fighting in Gaza are ongoing, but as Tom Perry explains, long-term solutions are hard to find. And a warning for you, some of the video in this story may be disturbing.
At Nasser Hospital in Han Yunis, no sign of a ceasefire. Just the everyday crush of injuries and death. This time, the victims, some very young, of an Israeli strike on a camp where displaced people were sheltering in tents. While I was getting water from a barrel, I was suddenly shaken by an explosion, says Najwa Al-Gabran. My nephews are in intensive care, and I don't know if they're alive or dead. While Palestinians mourn, Israel is grieving the loss of 5 IDF soldiers killed by a roadside bomb in northern Gaza. The Israeli military says 888 troops have now been killed since the war began. But as Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu talks ceasefire in Washington, his defense minister is floating a controversial proposal. Israel Katz reportedly putting forward a plan to move Gaza's entire population, more than 2 million people, to what he calls a humanitarian city at the southern end of the Strip, where they would be screened before entry and then not allowed to leave.
This is a big jail. This is not a humanitarian city. This is like a camp where they concentrate people, and they are not giving them any freedom to choose where to live or how to live.
For Palestinians watching from a distance, disbelief. This will never happen, says Nidal Bilha. We will remain in the Gaza Strip. Even if we die, we will not leave. We reject this as Palestinian people, says Syed Al-Kashawi. This is our ancestral land, and we will remain in it. What many Palestinians and Israelis say they really want is for this war to finally end. And right now, that remains a work in progress. Tom Perry, CBC News, Jerusalem.
A dramatic rise in the number of people missing after devastating floods in Texas. The efforts on the ground and calls for answers after this. Hundreds of searchers are digging through the banks of the Guadalupe River in Texas. It's been 5 days since a flash flood tore through that area, carrying more than 100 people to their deaths. The state's governor now says at least 161 people are missing. Katie Nicholson is in the flood area with more.
There's been a steady line through Ingram's main road. Searchers, emergency response vehicles, cleanup, and utility vehicles. Same here on the river. Lots of people out searching and doing more cleanup, while above, helicopters hover throughout parts of the river looking for the missing. There are hundreds of search crews up and down the Guadalupe River, some from out of state, places like Mexico and Florida. This work made all the more difficult by how the violent torrents of water slammed everything in its path up and over into the riverbanks. Recovery of the missing through massive piles of debris, a delicate task.
These large piles can be very obstructive, and to get deep into these piles, it's very hazardous, and those specialized teams have to go in there layer by layer because our first responders, also the safety of them is concerned. So it's extremely treacherous, time-consuming, it's dirty work, the water's still there. So we're having to go layer by layer, peeling these off to make those recoveries.
Then there are the recovery efforts of those who lost everything they own, like Henry Daigle. He barely escaped the rising waters in his RV park on Friday morning. Police told him he had to leave. He grabbed a few things and said within 60 seconds, the water was suddenly up to his knees.
The water is actually lifting my truck up a little bit. I'm kind of bobbing my way out. On the road, getting traction, but I'm bobbing a little bit. And I realized just how close, I came to getting swept up in that current myself. Cops saved my life, really. If that trailer had been hooked up, which was 5 minutes later, no way I would have made it out of here. I would have been in the drink going downriver. They've been pulling me out today.
Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Ingram, Texas.
Flooding is Canada's most common natural disaster. It is, as we've seen, dangerous and costly. And as Shayna Luck explains, experts say there is a lot of work to be done to mitigate those risks.
This widespread flooding in Nova Scotia in 2023 claimed the lives of 4 people and caused hundreds of millions of dollars in damage. The Sackville River, one of many that flooded. But as of this year, people who live along it can look to updated flood mapping to understand more about the risks.
Hooray! Hooray! Long overdue.
Walter Regan has been advocating for floodplain mapping and zoning for this river for 37 years.
We have baby seats for children. We have seat belts. The zoning, floodplain zoning, is a public protection measure that's cost effective and long overdue.
Floodplain zoning could prohibit new building in areas prone to flooding, but zoning and mapping is incomplete for most rivers in Canada.
On average, across Canada, flooders maps are 20 to 25 years out of date.
Maps are the first step towards keeping people safe from flooding. Experts say investing in diverting the water and issuing warnings come next.
The thing about extreme events is even the morning of, you may not be able to predict the severity of that extreme event.
That includes disasters like the 2013 Alberta flooding, which displaced tens of thousands of people, and Toronto flooding last year that clogged the subway and a major highway. Canada doesn't have a national early warning system for flash floods. Rivers are provincial jurisdiction, and each province handles alerts differently, but they all face a similar challenge.
Sadly, it probably will get worse in the future. We need to adjust the way we live. We need to prepare for something big in every region.
Walter Regan is thinking now of hundreds of other rivers in his home province. He urges decision makers to move quickly to lessen the risks.
They say in the tree world, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is now.
He believes it could save money and save lives. Shayna Luck, CBC News, Halifax.
Doris Mandava here with our BC-wide weather forecast. That is a busy wind map you've got there.
It is. This is one of the busier graphics that I've made, for sure. But
tells us some important information. One thing, the winds were blowing from the southwest today, and so we saw the potential for some fire growth as those strong winds came in advance of the cold front. As that cold front continues to pass over BC today, as we head into tomorrow, temperatures come down. We may see a few scattered showers, but there is also the possibility of some storms, and some strong winds will likely be gusting high at times as well. And I want to take a quick look, zooming into the Eisman Creek wildfire on Highway 12 between Lytton and Lillooet. You can see that in the Fraser Canyon here, we could expect to see some strong winds even as we head into tomorrow. Those wind gusts may start to pick up once again, likely not getting as high as they were today, but we could see some of that really picking up, fanning those flames once more. And really what makes this location particularly dangerous compared to some of the other fire starts that we've had in other parts of the southern interior is that when we do get these setups, we get the wind blowing through the Fraser Canyon, but we don't get the showers, the rain that we do in other areas, just because it's really hard to get those showers into this canyon, just because of the geography, the topography of the area. So that is one thing that we are looking for in the next couple of days as temperatures drop tomorrow and then start to come up again as we head into the weekend. In terms of our highs over the next couple of days, you can see that big drop that's coming tomorrow, and then temperatures will slowly start to recover as we get into the weekend. The one exception to that in the south is down in the far southeast around Cranbrook, where temperatures get up to around 30 tomorrow, come down to 25 pretty quickly after it does hit that peak. And then over the next couple of days, we start to see those temperatures rebound across the south for another hot and sunny weekend ahead. In terms of that precipitation, you can also see a few showers moving through the southern interior over the next day or so. But then the next wave really just confined up into the north. Again, once we get through tomorrow, don't expect to see very much precipitation in the south for the next little while. In terms of precipitation totals, those also aren't expected to be particularly high for many areas. I will note this is from now, so the high amount of rain that the Central Coast got earlier, the brief but heavy downpours that the west coast of the island got, not represented here. In terms of the conditions across the province tomorrow, a fair amount of smoke up in the north and in the southeast, but besides that, just a couple thunderstorms possible in parts of the southern interior. And here's a 5-day forecast and a few showers tomorrow. Environment Canada is saying those showers may continue into Thursday morning. I think it's unlikely, but possible, and then some clearing up.
Okay, Dorius, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Artificial intelligence has been seeping into many aspects of our lives lately. When it comes to art, some call its use unethical, others see it as inevitable. Now, Halifax photographers' AI-generated creations have some artists questioning where to draw that line. More now from Andrew Sampson.
The use of artificial intelligence is stirring up a debate among Nova Scotia artists. Lauren Tamander is an early adapter, using ChatGPT for everything from work to play. She recently used it to make some of her own photos of Halifax into illustrations.
So I was like, I'll just put this through ChatGPT and see what happens. Turned out like a really cool animated kind of vibe that I was going for.
Tamander decided to sell the illustrations online. But when they were reposted on a popular Instagram page, the response was polarizing.
Some people have come onto my own page from Halifax Noise and just saying that I'm stealing people's work. I mean, I don't see it that way because it is my picture that you can see there.
Large language models like those used to build ChatGPT are trained by mining large data sets that include the creative output of artists, often without their consent. That's why some people see what Tamander is doing as theft.
If you flip the situation on the other end and take illustrations that you want to convert into photography, I can't help but feel that the person on the other end of that equation would feel similar to how illustrators feel in this particular situation.
He's someone who takes pride in doing everything by hand. He draws illustrations on his iPad, but then painstakingly prints the work himself using a homemade tabletop press. Much of this work is for musicians like the Arkells. If they'd used AI to transform a photograph into an illustration, he would have been out of a job.
And I think to replace that with AI and to remove that person from the process is totally unethical.
But others say the tech may open up new possibilities.
I think AI is a tool, and tools are only as good as the people who use them, and they're only as interesting as what's made with them.
How AI will affect art in the future is an open question. Tamander believes that as the technology develops, it will be prudent to get acquainted with how it works. But McCaskill worries about what may happen if we lose sight of what makes art so valuable in the first place. Andrew Sampson, CBC News, Halifax.
It's been around for, 150 years, but the most peculiar sport of wife carrying isn't afraid of a little change. The trials and tribulations of toting around your spouse. Coming up.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Inbox.
Did you hear? CBC Musical Nooners are back. Free concerts Wednesdays at noon at the CBC Outdoor Plaza. To see who's playing this week, head to cbc.ca/musicalnooners and experience culture and flavors from around the world at the Surrey Fusion Festival, July 19th and 20th. Make sure to stop by the CBC tent to play games and win prizes. Details at surreyfusionfestival.ca.
As sports goes, it's not for the weak.
And certainly going to put your relationship to the test. This wife-carrying contest in Finland gives falling head over heels a whole new meaning. Couples race through a course filled with obstacles, including water and sand. The person designated as husband had to carry their partner to the finish line. An American couple won the main race this year.
This is the first time, though, in the event's history, a separate race was held for female couples. More than 200 people from 18 countries took part in this year's championship. including a pair of brothers. Okay, quiz time for you. What does the winner get if you come out on top in wife carrying? Do you know?
What is Finnish? A new sauna.
A new sauna. No, you get your wife's weight in beer, which you can enjoy in the sauna. And maybe
Wow,
with
that's pretty
some
good.
kalsari kanat. Look it up.
Very nice. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch this newscast on CBC Gem with your wife's weight worth of beer, or on YouTube or our website, cbc.ca/BC.
We'll have your next local news at 11 o'clock, right after the National. Cheers.
Nothing.
It was cheersing.